this time, Ms. Steele, if you'll please call the roll.
Yes, Mr. Gibson? Here. Dr. Orth? Mr. Hutson?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Chriscoe?
Here.
Mr. Bazzani?
Here.
Mr. Nicosia? Here. All present.
Okay. Yes, tonight we're happy to have with us the Pastor Susan Boyd from Rock Church, who will lead us into our invocation, and then afterwards, Allie Atkins, fifth grader from Abingdon Elementary School, here for her second time. She'll lead us into the pledge.
Lord, we just give you thanks and praise tonight for the opportunity to be here and to lift up your name. Lord, we also thank you for our county, and we bless every resident, every person, Lord, that lives here. And we thank you, Lord, that you are here with us tonight. We bless, Lord, our supervisors. We thank you, Lord, that they care and that they're patient. And God, they have so many things to do and so many things to hear, possibly even tonight. But Lord, we just thank you that they're going to be understanding and patient and kind as they always are. We thank you, Lord, for our leadership of our county. So, Lord, we bless this meeting, and we thank you again for another opportunity to come together in unity. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Allie. Thank you, Pastor Boyd, for our invocation. Moving on, approval of our minutes, April 28th, April 30th.
So moved. Second.
Moved and second. All in favor? The adoption of our agenda.
So moved. Second.
Moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
The approval of our consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Moved and second. All in favor? Aye. Matters presented by the board. Yes, sir, Dr. Orth.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So I've been thinking, now that the tolls are off, I know there must be an awful lot of discussion going on within the community about what's going to happen with Gloucester's population. I've been thinking of Mr. Bazzani, who championed the tolls since the day he got on, or the removal of the tolls since they came off, has also commented that he said, be prepared for the rush. So I was thinking, how are we going to figure out whether this is really going to happen? You know, some people have said, no, it's not going to happen. Others have said, yeah, it's happening already. There's more traffic. So I'm wondering if perhaps as a topic for a retreat or discussion, we try to figure out how are we going to determine whether this is really happening, and if it is happening, how do we control it? Because, you know, we've heard from a number of citizens about growth and keeping the county as rural as we can get it. And of course, we have zoning, we have other things, but there are other things that maybe we can do. I know Mr. McKnight is here, and it'd be interesting to see whether VDOT could help us understand whether traffic is increasing or decreasing. Perhaps doing it after the summer rush, because obviously people are going back and forth, you know, perhaps not taking 64 because of all the traffic. But it'd be really good to get a handle on whether we're starting to see something happening, and if there's anything that is within our ordinances or what this board can do to minimize growth and keep the county as it is today and what we want it today. I know we're not going to stop it, but are there things that we can do and understand how growth is occurring, i.e. talking to some of the realtors if they're getting more inquiries for houses, if we're getting more building permits, things like that. But perhaps, you know, maybe when we have a retreat, we can bring together some people that could perhaps help us. I know the Wendell Cooper, that survey came out, and I think I didn't really see the growth for Gloucester, but I know it's increasing. So let's see what we can do and listen to the people in Gloucester as to what they think is maybe happening too.
Mr. Chair, just a quick comment.
Yes.
It's just very ironic. I was trying to remember what question I wanted to ask Mr. McKnight, and it was to do a baseline count now that the toll, because they do those estimates, but you can request certain ones. I didn't think about the summer travel necessarily being up, but there's kind of two different situations. One, is our traffic going to go up because people don't have to pay a toll, whether they live here or they're just crossing through? And then secondly is the growth issue, dealing with the building permits and how much housing area we have. So we'll definitely add that, but you and I are on the right path for the road
Yeah.
tonight.
I mean, if people may be taking 17 to avoid 64 and 95 going north or coming from north to south, you know, I had to take my granddaughter to Dulles, and I had to get on 64 and then 95, and this was like a Friday afternoon. It was not a lot of fun. And it could be that people are using that, so it might be good, as you just said, to get a base count of what's happening, and also perhaps when 64 is finished to really see what's going on. But I think having that base information and then perhaps having a retreat as to how we determine whether growth is really occurring or not would be very helpful to the board.
Dr. Orth, any other matters presented by the board? Okay, moving on to county administrators' items.
Thank you. I have a couple of different items. First of all, I'd like to remind everybody that this coming Saturday, September 6th, is Gloucester Day, and that's where the Gloucesters of the world will be celebrating along with the UK. This year, we're going to hold our online live event, which is at 12 o'clock down at Abingdon Church. And we would welcome the public to come down and talk or watch the talking between the 4 localities that are signed up to participate. And it also can be live streamed, so you can go to the county's website and find out information if you aren't able to get to church, but you just want to watch it live. Secondly, I've mentioned this to the board, and you'll see more and more coming out in our social media, as well as York County and a bunch of the other sponsors. But on Saturday, September 20th, there is a large event that's going to take place on the Yorktown battlefield. And it starts at 3 o'clock, and it is the screening, it's We the People, a Yorktown battlefield event with screening of The American Revolution, a film by Ken Burns. And that is an excerpt that he's done specifically dealing with Yorktown. And there will also be exhibits and things, so it starts at 3 o'clock, and then the movie showing where you bring your chair out and you watch from the battlefield is at 7 o'clock. They have, I'm trying to think, I can't think of the name. You have to register. I just lost it. It's not e-tickets, but, yes, but no, it's the company I'm thinking about. Eventbrite, is that it? Okay, thank you. That you go online and they register. It's free, but they just need to know for the count and for parking how many people are coming. So please participate if you can. And we're asking that to be a Gloucester gathering. So if people from Gloucester County want to all sit together, maybe wear some Gloucester t-shirts, so we let Yorktown know we're there and that we had a part in this too. And we're happy for how things ended, but it should be a very fun and educational event with an outstanding film.
So didn't the Revolutionary War actually end here in Gloucester?
Well, there was a second surrender, and that did occur in
We're
Gloucester.
the official surrender site then?
We are, yes, with the second surrender. We had Tarleton here, and he didn't surrender officially, just like Cornwallis. They send out their others. They don't want to. Okay, and the third thing is the mural for Main Street that we've mentioned before. We're going to be sending out a website link where you can read about the history from Gloucester. You can see a lot of the images. So if the board has anything that they would like to offer input on what the artists would include, this is an opportunity to do so. Our county attorney will be working on an agreement. There's already been some drafts going back and forth. That'll come back to the board in a few months. They're gathering like topics, and it's interesting again the number of images and paintings that are from that time period or of that time period. And if the board knew for some reason, and I wouldn't ask you to do this publicly now, but if you have any concerns about a mural being painted on the side of the senior center, just like not wanting to participate, we need you to holler loud to our county attorney. Otherwise, he's going to be working on the agreement in preparation for you. The artist is, I think, going to be coming in like February and will present draft for your review. So we're bouncing the idea back and forth. I just wanted to give you a heads up that you'll get an email from Trish tomorrow on some potential subject matter.
So did you say the mural will be on?
The mural artist is...
it's going to be on the senior
I'm sorry,
center?
the senior center.
Okay.
And on Main Street, and it's the same artist that... I'm not sure if I'm supposed to announce it publicly. It's one that they're doing a repeat of that I think I've let the board know. And all the murals are fantastic, but this is one of the ones that's more favored, I think. So it'll be a very patriotic mural for the county to have on the senior center, which is right now just a white wall. And then the final thing, it feels like a little bit of a repeat, but it's completely different circumstances. Last week, we celebrated with George as he was retiring and moving on to fun times. Sometimes we see people leave for career growth. And so tonight is our Deputy County Administrator Steve Wright's last board meeting. He will be leaving us to go become the town manager for the town of Tappahannock. So he'll be close by. We'll still be working with him regionally through the Planning District Commission and through the Middle Peninsula County Administrators Group, but we want to wish Steve well and just know you're going to really enjoy it up there and have a great time with it, and we're really happy for your career that you got to go all the way to the top. All right, thank you very much. That's it.
Yes, Ms. Steele, you were mentioning the Gloucester Day instead of Abingdon, was Abingdon Church. What time?
It's at 12 o'clock.
12 o'clock, okay. Okay, thank you. Moving on to scheduled presentations. First, we have our quarterly update from the Virginia Department of Transportation, Mr. Lee McKnight.
All right. Good evening, members of the board. I do want to mention that I did talk to Ms. Steele about the traffic counts on 17 prior to the meeting, so that was very timely, Dr. Orth, and I'll look into that and get traffic engineering on that. Some quick updates I wanted to give the board. Route 615 sidewalk from Dunstan Hall to Gloucester High School, that was, as a reminder, a construction project prioritized by the board on the secondary six-year plan that is in development and progressing nicely. Route 17 at 610 intersection improvement, that project, the R-Cut is underway, still with the completion date of December of 2025, but that is progressing. They did switch traffic to the outside lanes from the inside lanes, and so they have begun work on the median part of the project. Route 3, Burke Mill Stream Bridge rehabilitation, that's still underway. The bridge has been completed and is open to traffic, but they do have some work to do, removal of some of the asphalt in the median of that project. But that is on track and should be completed by fall of this year. Route 17 northbound bridge replacement over the Dragon Run. This is at the county line of Middlesex and Gloucester. That's still projected to begin early 2026.
Mr. McKnight,
Yes, sir.
is that going to do the same with the last one? We're going to have one lane traffic each way over the bridges? Or are you going to do one lane at a time?
No, they're going to shut down the northbound bridge and move. You'll have traffic moving in both directions on the southbound. Yes, sir.
So we mentioned it offline, but I don't see Little England in here anywhere.
It is still on the secondary six-year plan.
Okay, good, thank you.
Some maintenance updates that I did want to mention. The contractor primary mowing has been completed. That's the second round. There is still a third round to come. We're obviously going to try to wait as long as possible into the growing season and to get that last cut, but that is still planned. We did complete the Route 198 pipe replacement project in Glens, so I really appreciate everyone's patience on that one. They were able to do a lot of work down there, do a lot of ditch pulling while they had the road closed, so it was a very beneficial project. Do want to mention that we're gearing up for snow. I know it's a four-letter word in September 2nd, but it's a never-ending process for us, so we are getting ready for that. So just wanted to mention that. You might see in October timeframe, you might see some folks running some snow routes, getting familiar with the area, having new employees, bringing them along. Don't go down this road, don't go on this hill. So did just want to mention that. And with that, I would be happy to take any questions that the board may have.
Any questions for Mr. McKnight? Yes, Dr. Orth.
I just want to publicly thank you for what you did for several of my constituents. All I can say is you made them very happy, and I appreciate the timeliness for which the project was completed. I even got a call from a gentleman that thanked me vociferously, and I said, I want to thank you very much for what you did for them.
I wish I could take all the credit. That's just that was an opportunity where all the stars aligned, and it happened to coincide. But thank you.
When you get a chance, can you give me an update offline for what we've been talking about? I know I finally got you the correct address.
Okay,
So just let me know what we find on that,
sure.
because I bet it becomes a problem again in the next 2 weeks when we're having the king tide. So just,
Understood.
okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is it?
Not me.
Anyone else for Mr. McKnight? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, tourism in Gloucester, Ms. Laura Messer, Destination Development Manager, Virginia Tourism.
Good evening, gentlemen. I am not
Oh, hi,
Laura
Ms.
Messer.
Laura.
My last official duty before this august board, before I literally go up the river, is to introduce Laura Messer.
Behind you.
The Parks, Rec, and Tourism folks and I have been working heavily with her on a tourism strategic plan, and you're going to hear a little bit about Laura regarding tourism in Gloucester County. So Laura is a Destination Development Manager for the Virginia Tourism Corporation with a focus on the Chesapeake Bay and Central Virginia regions, including the Eastern Shore. She has been with VTC since 2022. Prior to that, she spent 14 years with James City County, working in tourism marketing and economic development. So I will turn it over to Laura. Thank you.
And I believe we're going to queue up the presentation. And so thanks so much for having me tonight, y'all.
Okay.
Perfect. And so, as Steve said, I've been with VTC since 2022, and so this first slide is really indicates the things that have happened in Gloucester tourism since 2022. And so first and foremost, I did work with staff in 2023 and 2024 to facilitate some tourism strategic planning sessions. We'll talk a little bit further about that later on. There was also the launch of Restaurant Week in 2024, which has been very successful the last 2 years. Nearly $225,000 in grant funding from Virginia Tourism Corporation has been awarded to both the locality and locality-based businesses and organizations since 2022. The Virginia 250 Preservation Fund also awarded $690,000 to properties in Gloucester as part of the 250th next year. Gloucester tourism staff also applied for and received a Drive Tourism grant from VTC for 2025. That leads to $10,000 from VTC. There will be a workshop on October 9th for that, so that's upcoming. A regional destination marketing organization, or DMO, is actually in process through the PDC to really unite the Middle Peninsula as a whole. The Northern Neck has a very similar regional DMO, and that has been really effective in uniting the different localities within the region. And then lastly, I work collaboratively with a lot of Gloucester organizations, both Main Street, the Cook Foundation, and I have worked to support some tourism-related entrepreneurs throughout the county. Some state fast facts about tourism. This was actually just released about a month ago, and so 44.7 million overnight visitors to the Commonwealth as a whole. That was an increase of 2.5%. 35.1 billion in visitors spending across the Commonwealth. That was an increase of 5.4%. Travelers overall spent $96 million per day in Virginia, which was up from $91 million in 2023. Our goal is to really hit $100 million by 2026. Lastly, $2.5 billion in state and local tax revenue. Of course, Gloucester and all localities benefit from some of that tax revenue. And so overall, tourism saves every Virginia household $990 overall. And then the next slide is actually economic impact in Gloucester County itself. And so I'm pleased to say that next week, the 2024 data will be released. And so this is a chart that shows 2019 through 2023. We can see that overall expenditures in 2023 were $47 million. That was an increase of 9.4% in Gloucester, which is really terrific. VTC has been benchmarking against 2019, of course, pre-pandemic, and so expenditures in 2019 were only 39 million, and so that growth to 47 million is not just recovery post-pandemic, but true growth. And so, yes?
So is those expenditures in meals and lodging only?
No, and so actually on our next slide, nice transition, thank you. VTC tracks 5 different sectors, and so those include lodging, food and beverage, recreation, retail, and transportation. And so as a fun fact, grocery stores are actually included in food and beverage, and then recreation includes museums, movie theaters, things that you pay tickets for, as well as rentals for boats and marina slip fees and things like that. And so overall, we can see the breakdown in Gloucester, very lodging and food and beverage heavy, and so recreation growth and then also retail growth would be beneficial for Gloucester. Yes?
So now my question is, with food and beverage, how do you differentiate local versus those who come tourists?
And so there's a whole wizardry of methodology that goes behind that. And so they do try to focus it on visitor spending specifically. VTC uses 50 miles as that radius point. If you're out of a 50-mile range, then VTC considers that a traveler, a visitor. And so they do try to remove as much as they can in terms of local, but it does include some.
Yeah, but if someone comes to Olivia's, how do you know that person is actually from Gloucester or Math? I mean, or someone coming from Richmond, like for the Daffodil Festival?
Right, and so, I mean, the folks at Tourism Economics provide VTC this data. Tourism Economics is a subsidiary of Oxford Economics, and so they have a whole lot of people that are much smarter than me that really do all the input, and then our research team with VTC goes behind and double checks. It's all sorts of different tax information from the locality itself, and then, I mean, there's a whole methodology that I'm happy to send Ms. Steele the link, and then she can forward that to you.
They're using Placer or other type of software similar to that, sure.
Lots of different data goes into this to form these numbers, and this is sort of the industry standard by all means. And so as you can see on this sector expenditure chart, you know, there is a lot of room for growth, but expenditures across all the categories grew from 2022 to 2023. And I'm optimistic that also for 2024 that will be the same. And so this is a visitor profile of folks that are visiting Gloucester itself. This is using Arrivalist data, which uses cell phones and that data to really put this profile together. And so 65.5% of visitors spent at least one night in Gloucester. That was actually a decrease of 3.6%. That's cut off on the slide there. 34.5% of visitors took day trips. The average number of nights in destination was 1.7, which was an increase of 0.2%. The most popular months, May, July, and August. Of course, your location here on the waterfront contributes to that. And then the top 3 places that folks are coming from, the coastal Virginia Hampton Roads, sort of metropolitan area, the Richmond region, and then Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia. And so these are where the visitors are coming from, and also helps inform the tourism and parks and recreation staff on where they should be advertising for different events in Gloucester. And so I like to always say that, you know, that second and third, they can really have a big growth in a lot of those categories by not advertising perhaps so much in coastal Virginia. And so then within the Gloucester Tourism County Action Plan, that process was 2 half-day facilitated sessions in 2023 and 2024. I facilitated those. There were 21 participants from across Gloucester. That included county staff, it included nonprofits, it included some business owners, the different tourism sectors, and then there was input from Gloucester tourism staff. And then those goals were developed based on existing documents. So that included the Middle Peninsula SEDS, the Gloucester Comprehensive Plan, different documents that were already existed, and then from there, objectives and activities were developed. And so there are 4 primary goals of the Tourism Action Plan, and so that includes expanding promotional efforts and strengthening tourism marketing strategies, expanding and diversifying tourism-related opportunities, of course in partnership with Gloucester Economic Development, fostering existing and creating new community and business partnerships and relationships, and then advocating and seeking funds for enhancement and preservation of the historical, cultural, and natural assets of Gloucester. And so those 4 goals really align with tourism strategy across the Commonwealth, and then also things that are already going on in Gloucester and on the Middle Peninsula. And so I know that at a later date, the tourism strategic plan will be brought forth to you guys for approval, but I wanted to go ahead and provide some background and some insight, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have or send research later that helps provide the answers.
Okay, do we have any questions for Ms. Messer? Yes, Mr. Gibson?
Thank you for your presentation.
Of course.
Do you have any information on the status of the Ware Wacomico Park and its development, and how that will play into Gloucester's tourism efforts?
Right, and so that was actually included in the draft of the plan that I developed, because that will be a huge game changer, of course, for Gloucester. And so I know that through the Fairfield Foundation, they're still doing a lot of archaeological work there on that site. And it is something that's in the pipeline, but of course, because it is a national park, a lot of that is dependent on federal funding. And so in the current climate, you know, we don't necessarily know what will happen.
Do you have any rough estimate of when that's going to be online for a greater audience?
I don't, unfortunately, because I know they're still trying to wrap up that archaeological work at this time.
Okay.
But it will be a huge asset, I mean, hopefully in our lifetime, certainly.
So if I can, Mr. Chair, we do routinely talk to the National Park Service, and it's been kind of quiet for some of the things that have happened. They've done some great internship programs. They're doing, again, you know, their research, but they're not ready to do any kind of opening. When they do, they anticipate it will be a limited type opening. What I would suggest is maybe after the September 20th event, when the superintendent gets to slow down a little bit, why don't we ask if she'll come and do a presentation to the board and give an update?
Because I think, as our presenter has mentioned, it would be a game changer for Gloucester with the interest in Pocahontas and the Native American heritage. That would be another key stop on someone coming from Northern Virginia or the coast or Richmond. We're going to hit Williamsburg, we're going to hit Yorktown, we're going to hit Gloucester for that story. So it could be a huge tourist draw.
Yes, absolutely.
And a fantastic destination for visitors to our county. So I'm hoping that plans for that park will move forward rapidly.
And I mean, I would suggest too that always advocating, of course, on behalf of Gloucester is a great opportunity for you all to say, you know, tourism is a big sector in Gloucester, and history and culture are critical pieces of, you know, what we have to offer here. And so, of course, advocating for funding for that park to the federal government and to your elected officials is always important.
Yes, Mr. Nicosia.
Earlier in your presentation, you said that you would be happy to email us
Yeah.
your matrix. I would like to see that matrix to better understand where the data is coming from. I'm a data person, and I'd like to know where the data is coming from. So if you would be so kind as to share that information with us so that we can get a better understanding, I would appreciate that.
Absolutely. I will send that email tomorrow morning to Ms. Steele. And then also, once that locality economic impact data is released next week, I already have notes to send it to both Matt and his staff, and then also Sherry and her staff. And of course, I'll copy Ms. Steele, so you all will be aware. I think you'll be pleased.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time.
Okay,
Thank you for visiting Gloucester.
Of course. Always happy to do so.
Okay, next, 2026 reassessment update, Mr. Dan Thomas, County Assessor.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Smith.
Yes, sir.
To the supervisors, Ms. Steele, Attorney Wilmot, and the general public. Thank you for the opportunity to provide the board with, and the public with an update of the current reassessment project. To begin, I'd like to present a brief overview as to why we do reassessment. In a word, equalization. The expressed goal of reassessment is to equalize assessments based on one criteria, fair market value. The express goal of reassessment is to equalize assessments. The means by which equalization is achieved is market value, and the method or the process by which we determine market value is reassessment. Virginia law requires that real estate assessments be based on the market value of real estate. Virginia law also recognizes that that real estate market value changes over time and that it changes at differing rates for different property types. And how is market value defined? Essentially, it is the most probable price a property would sell for in an open, competitive market, assuming a typical motivated buyer and seller with both parties acting prudently and knowledgeably and without undue external pressure. Now, tucked away in the middle of that definition is this gem, a typical motivated buyer and seller. Apparently, buyers and sellers establish market value with their pocketbooks. And if assessments are to be based on market value, ultimately, property owners, also known as buyers and sellers, are the final determinant of market and, by statutory extension, assessments. The role of the assessor, then, should be viewed as historian, analyst, and messenger. Historian, reading the data from the transactions that have already taken place. Analyst, analyzing the data and applying the results equitably. And 3, messenger, reporting the results. Trust me, the third one is the hardest. General appraisal practice recognizes that appraisals must be in the context of a specific point in time, usually the current market, and is commonly referred to as data value. The data value for this reassessment is January 1, 2026. Turning now to the data. The first graph tracks the number of sales per quarter since the previous assessment. Now, mind you, these are the number of valid, qualified sales of single-family residences, again, per quarter, the same sales used to track the market. And then for those of us who like numbers, it is interesting to note the consistency of the number of sales for both years for quarters 2, 3, and 4. In the second quarter, we have 86 sales, 2023, 83 sales in 2024. And in the third quarter, 68 and 70 respectively, 23 and 24. And in the fourth quarters, 56 and 51. I just thought that was interesting that it occurs in that fashion. Also of interest is the total sales figure for the second quarter of this year at 96, the highest number of sales for the 30-month period for any quarter, pointing perhaps to a more robust market for the rest of the year. Now, the next graph. Question? Sure.
Go back to the previous slide.
Yep.
I noticed that for the first quarter of 2023, 2024, they were much higher than our first quarter of 32. So could it be that the second quarter is a reflection of low sales?
It snowed.
What?
It snowed.
Oh.
January and February it snowed.
It was cold.
Yeah, people weren't looking for houses.
So that might be a rebound of people looking desperately in the next quarter.
Right. Yep.
So we'll see what your next quarter looks like.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. The next graph tracks the average of the ratios of sale prices to their current assessment per quarter since January 1 of 2023. And again, it's the average of the ratios of sale price to current assessment. And it's important to keep in mind the fact that the data value for current assessments is January 1, 2023. So values haven't been updated for nearly 3 years now. The figure in blue represents the average of the ratios. The figure in brown or dark orange represents the median ratio. Now, from this graph, we can easily observe the apparent gradual increase in the market value of residential properties over the 30-month period. The most recent quarter, ending in June of this year, shows the average of the ratios at 27.8%. This would then represent nearly a 1% per month increase in market value since the last reassessment. 30 months, 27.8. And just a note, the first month of the third quarter of this year, July, the average ratio was 29%. So, and for those who track such things, it is also interesting to note that from the end of the third quarter in 2023 until the end of the fourth quarter, 2024, a period of 15 months, and represented by the red arrows, the total increase in the ratio of sale price to assessments was only 5%. It was just a point of information. Interesting. Little lull there. I think with the transition of president and the economy, and things were just stagnant for a while. I think everybody realizes that. And where we go from there remains to be seen. Obviously, it's tracking fairly high for the middle period of this year. And what does all this indicate for the reassessment? Clearly, single-family assessments will increase, and early indications place that increase at a minimum of 20%. How individual properties and neighborhoods react varies, as you might expect. Sales ratios for single-family waterfront properties and mobile home properties overall are tracking anywhere from 25 to 30% greater than their previous assessments. It's been a robust market for waterfront, a lot more sales than we had the previous reassessment. And mobile homes, I think everyone, well, maybe not, is aware that that's the entry-level home almost these days for most. So those values increased as the demand kept increasing.
So, go ahead.
Are
you saying that, let's say, a $500,000 home will go up $100,000 because of your 20% prediction?
Yes.
God almighty.
But Mr. Bazzani, think about when we approach the sales tax, it's always equalized. So we have to really look carefully at what Mr. Thomas is saying and the time that comes for us to think about what our tax rate will be. So take into account the assessment. We also take into account equalizing the tax rate based on that assessment.
True, but is your 20% prediction, have you checked with other localities as to what
It's
other
not
assessors?
a prediction. It's based upon
based on the
sales
data,
that have occurred.
have you seen the same, or
No, I
other
don't check
localities?
with other counties because they
understand.
do reassessments at different points in time, but also their markets could be totally different. Have to keep it local. Have to.
Okay.
That's good appraisal technique. You wouldn't do it any other way. You just would. You couldn't defend it. Now maybe for a rare property, but those are few and far between, but they do exist. Lastly, for the most part, assessment totals for vacant parcels and commercial properties, which added together represent about a third of the total of number of properties in the county, will have an increase of value of only 11% from their previous assessments. Now again, these are overall totals. How any one property will fare varies. And finally, the overall increase in total market value for all taxable real estate, it's not every property, but for the total, we're looking at about 15 to 20%, okay? Our final determination of value must wait for the third quarter sales data, at which time we will make a thorough review of all the market data over the past 24 months, with the greatest emphasis weighted on the last 6 months of sales, and then fine-tune our numbers accordingly before mailing notices. Now, if the board wishes, I hope to be able to present to the board updated statistics, perhaps at your December or January meeting. Please know that we hope to mail our assessment notices sometime in early December of this year, Applications to informally appeal assessments to the assessor can be found online under forms at the real estate assessment page on the county's website. And they must be submitted by January 31st, 2026. Yes?
So your 20% data increase is going to be reflected in the December bills you're going to send out?
No.
No. Okay.
We send out a separate notice, real estate assessment increase notice. It's not.
When do you expect to reflect this new forecast in real estate?
Well, as far as reflecting the bill, if that's what you're talking about, it should be indicated in your, right, June billing.
June billing.
Right. But notices of the increase of the assessment are going to be mailed in December.
So maybe if I can, Mr. just a reminder for the public who might be listening to the process of they get the notice, then there's a time period where people can come and talk and they can question and get the answers they need. At the same time as we move forward in the budget process, there's code requirements for equalizing to within 1% of, I guess it's the previous year's budget. That was the only thing I wanted to make. I wasn't sure if that 1% was on the previous year, but all of that's done in the spring. And so the last time that the rates can go sky high, but the board can lower the tax rate. So that's what the equalizing is.
Right. Previous reassessment. I think overall the total land book, total of assessments increased 28%. So this time it's a little under that, but if you look at the last 2 months, maybe not so much. It could be very, but there were some different things going on. And this time, again, the market is different. Waterfront increased more this period than it did last, and commercial properties did as well. Obviously, there has not been a good investment climate for commercial real estate for the past 2 or 3 years, for the most part. And again, there are exceptions. Go ahead, Mr. Chriscoe. I'm sorry.
Again, thank you for the presentation. And it being data rich, I'm sure Mr. Nicosia will want to see some data. But notwithstanding, when these notices go out in December, because most people don't really watch carefully what we do here at the meeting and likely won't see your presentation, and even if they did, they may not fully appreciate or understand that difference of 20%. So how do we explain to people in English that they will understand why the rates of assessment are going up? I mean, when you just did those, can we in some way include some simple explanation to those people why this is happening?
Yes. You may recall, most probably don't, we attempted that last time with a flyer. And so I appreciate your comment about making it so folks can understand in simple terms. And that's sort of what I've tried to do tonight. In other words, indicate that it really is the actions of buyers and sellers, and just simply lawfully, what we're obligated to do is simply look at that and say, well, okay, this is what the market is indicating properties are worth presently based upon current sales. And then it becomes an equalization from the standpoint of, if this is in less than desirable condition for the one that's sold, then the assessment should reflect that to a degree.
Again, trying to explain to people that, because most people won't be selling their house.
Understood.
It's a very small proportion.
I get that a lot.
And so, I know. And so, because of what's going on in the economy,
right.
And the fact that, things are going up in a number of categories, we have to make sure that people understand why we do the assessment and why the assessments go up the way they do, and to also make them aware that during the appropriate discussion time when we deal with taxes, there is the process of equalization. As Ms. Steele presented, we have to deal with a percentage above a certain amount where we would have to advertise, correct?
And I think, and Dan, maybe you can, or Mr. Thomas, you can answer, or Maria can, either one. When I was saying it's the 1%, it's the 1% of the total value of all the real estate not dealing with the taxes, I think, is what we can't increase our value of all the property together more than 1% and still be equalized. Is that correct? Is that what you said?
It's our net income of what we get in real estate income if it increases by 1%, right, that's where we have.
Right.
Right.
There was a comment that was made at the VACO meeting on last week, and one of the jurisdictions brought up that they wanted to see legislative activity on this because the equalization did not take into account inflation. So some places are doing an assessment annually, so they're just keeping up with it. Others are doing it literally, in our region, 6 years. And so in that 6-year time frame, to only have 1% of growth was unrealistic for them. And so I don't know whether we'll see that. That's what I was trying to remember earlier today. I don't know if that will get any traction, but a lot of this is decided by code. And the other part that I believe is part of the code, which is frustrating to the homeowner who gets this, is that we have to state what their taxes would be if you don't equalize. And so if the value's gone up for that one particular property owner, and they look at that and they say, oh my gosh, my taxes are going up this much. We have no idea what their taxes are going up until the board sets the tax rate. And so we're trying to do everything with public media, with podcast, with all kinds of things to educate the public.
Right.
But generally, there is a knee-jerk reaction when people get those papers, unless they are looking to sell. And when you were talking about, like, how do you tell the public? I mean, one of it kind of sounds trite, but you say, would you sell your house for any less than that? Because literally, that sometimes does help people relate, because they see when it's saying starter homes going for this, that, and prices that are much higher than we used to see a few years ago, then we realize that's what our market is here. And so it doesn't mean that's what their tax rate's going to be, but their home is worth more because there's not a huge supply of homes.
Just a point of information that somewhat addresses that. If you look at the first quarter, 3 months out of the last reassessment, 2023, property values, the sale prices over the assessment had already increased 2% a month, 6%. And that's the first quarter. That's January, February, March, which are usually low in number of sales. And it just went up from there. So the point in that respect is that equalization is necessary because property values increase different rates for different types of properties, as I just explained to you. In light of commercial, vacant land, et cetera, weighted up against single-family homes, weighted up against waterfront properties and mobile homes. And it's just a fact of the market. It's our job simply to read it, I think.
Just one more comment. This also may play into our discussion about what happens with our population now that the tolls are going down. Will there be a demand for houses in which the sellers will be asking more than the buyers are? So that difference may actually be very interesting to watch over the next few quarters.
Yes. Especially with what, the talk is about rates, et cetera. As a... Yeah, that's always fascinating to look at too, is just the history of assessments and what maybe happened, 10 years ago versus now. It's astounding. So, any other questions? Closing comment: appraisal is not an exacting science. Admittedly, a certain degree of subjectivity is involved, but the overall process includes numerous statistical measures that, when applied appropriately, help the assessor yield a land book that is both fair and equitable.
And Mr. Thomas, we appreciate your staff and the way you interact with our citizenry. I've only heard good comments of how you respond to citizens with regard to questions they have on their assessment. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thank you.
Apologize. Public comment. Anyone that would like to address the board, your comment this time, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Anyone? I saw her earlier. Yeah. She don't have anything tonight? Okay, Ms. Cronin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We received one comment from Beryl Andrews in Gloucester. Why is there no recycling available in Gloucester, Virginia? That was the only comment. I'm sorry, why is there no recycling available in Gloucester?
Recycling.
Okay. Thank you, Trish. Okay. Okay, then we'll move on to our public hearing. And we will, our public hearing to consider proposal water and sewer revenue bond financing. Ms. Maria Calloway and Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Ted Cole, Senior Vice President, Davenport Company.
Yes, good evening. We'll get the presentation lit up for you. So this evening, as Mr. Smith mentioned, this is a public hearing to consider proposed water and sewer revenue bond financing. I was here at the last meeting to provide just a preface to this public hearing, and so as a reminder, we're considering borrowing for $2.35 million worth of utilities projects that were included in the fiscal year 26 budget this year. Mr. Cole from Davenport is here with us tonight. His team sent out proposals to more than 200 banks to ask them for financing proposals, and then we also submitted an application to the Virginia Resources Authority to be able to compare these options. So Mr. Cole is going to prepare those compare those options for you and provide you with what collectively we determined to be the recommended option. If the board does decide to go a different way, we do have time, so Mr. Cole will mention that as well. That is why we are coming today, so that you have one more meeting if you decide you do not want to go with the recommended option this evening. So here's Mr. Cole.
All right, good evening. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. I think you all have in front of you what's on the screen. So this is the first of two discussions tonight, as Maria said, utility financing. Are you seeing now the overview slide? Yes. Okay, great. As we discussed, sorry, let me get this page. Estimated proposed $2.35 million worth of utility projects. We did a request for proposal to banks. We received proposals from 6 different banks. All of them are pretty active in bidding on local government debt. They may not necessarily be household names, but we deal with all of them. And as Maria said, we also submitted an application to the Virginia Resources Authority, which you have also gone through that program. Regardless of which option we go with, the proposed form of financing will be a revenue pledge of the water and sewer system. So not a general obligation of the county, not a lease financing of the county, a pledge of the water and sewer system revenues. And that is a type of debt that the county has issued before. We subsequently refinanced the last revenue bond that was outstanding, so there is technically no utility revenue debt outstanding today. But if we move forward with this, this would be a revenue bond that would be outstanding. But again, very much like what you've done in the past, we did, as part of this, need to create new revenue bond documents to issue under. That's been done, reviewed internally, reviewed with bond counsel. I think that's in very good shape. So it would be a revenue pledge of the county water and sewer system. It is written, our loan documents are written pretty broadly, where the county could provide financial support to the utility system if you chose to do that, that you're not precluded from doing that, but we have to, whether it's with county financial support or not, we have to meet certain revenue metrics under the bond documents. Again, very similar to what you did in the past. One of the key differences that we're going to want to talk about tonight is going with a bank for a revenue bond or going through VRA with a revenue bond. And the second to last bullet here is important. If we decide to move forward with VRA, we would be putting the approval in place this evening, or if you choose at the next meeting, you don't have to take that action tonight, but VRA would not actually sell their bonds and lock in their interest rate until late October. So there would be, because they have a certain schedule they follow, there would be, call it 60 days, a little less than 60 days, where we would be floating with the market until such time as VRA can lock their rates with their bond sale, which in turn means your rates would be locked. And I'll explain that a little more here in a moment. What you've got here is across the top, the lender, the call provisions, that is your ability to prepay a loan or refinance a loan. And then we ask banks for 15, 20, 25, and 30-year terms. The modeling that we've been working on with staff has focused on 25 or 30 year. I think that's where the recommendation lies with going 25 years at this point. You all certainly have discretion over that, but that's the recommendation, 25 years. The assets that are being financed are expected to be in service for that period of time or longer. And while this is a fairly small borrowing, we know there are other borrowings coming for utility, and we're trying to be mindful of that future debt when we're setting this debt service. So in a vacuum, the system could afford a shorter payback for this $3 million loan, but when you start stacking up the projects that are likely to come down the road, having all of these a little bit longer is going to help make things more affordable and fit within a rate plan that's deemed to be more affordable. So it might seem odd that such a small borrowing might be going out 25 or even 30 years, but it's really because it's just one piece of a much larger puzzle of future projects and future debt that you're going to need to do. VRA across the top there, you can see their rates. They're in red because, again, they're not going to be locked in until late October, but we can estimate them very accurately. So I think these are good representations of what I would call the current market for VRA. So under the 25-year term, it would be a rate of a 4.45, but again, subject to market movement. Rates could go up, rates could go down. You will not lock that rate until late October. Webster Bank, 15 and 20-year rates. Of the 15 and 20-year rates, they had, of all the banks, they had the lowest rates. They're in black font because they could be locked in tomorrow if that's your decision. 4.26 and a 4.57. Capital One is in red. Their rates would need to be accepted and locked in. We checked on those today. That 4.89 rate under the 25-year term could be locked in tomorrow if that's the preference. They set a formula for how the rate would move until you tell them you're ready to lock. When you lock it, the rate does not move. But when they submitted the proposal, they gave us a formula that says until such time as you're ready to lock, this is the formula that you would follow. And our review today, that formula is such that that 4.89 rate would lock.
Mr. Bazzani.
Thank you. Mr. Cole, if the Fed reduces interest rates by 25 basis points next month, as they predict they're going to do, isn't that going to affect all these rates right here?
So it's probably, maybe to some extent. What I mean by that is there's a very high expectation in the market that the Fed's going to reduce the rate next month or in their next meeting by 25 basis points lower. The rate that they're moving at the Fed is the shortest of short-term rates. The market, many would say, has already largely baked in that future rate reduction. That's hard to know for certain, but I think there's a reasonable expectation that these rates reflect a high probability of the Fed lowering rates. But also remember, the rate that the Fed's moving is a very short-term rate, and we're talking about 15, 20, 25-year rates. So there's not necessarily a lockstep movement. Fed reduces or increases 25, and our rates do the same thing. I would expect there might be a little bit of noise with these rates when the Fed announces what they're going to do, but that announcement in and of itself, many would say, is already baked into these rates. I don't think there's much reason to go through the other banks. We appreciate their proposals, but between VRA, which is the recommendation that we'll get to, 25 years, and either Capital One, that could be a 25-year alternate, or Webster Bank for a 20-year alternate.
Hey, Mr. Cole.
Mr. Cole, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, on your VRA, you say prepayable in whole or in part without penalty on, or is it on or after?
Yeah, that should be after.
Okay, thank you.
He's got it further down.
Well, the first line did.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
Keep going? Okay. So, in conversations with staff, looking at the longer-term model that has been developed and is evolving, we have modeled up here for you side by side all of the VRA options. Again, they can go 15 to 30 years, anywhere in between. Their bonds will be sold on October 28th. We're floating with the market until that time. When we run these numbers, we have all the costs fully incorporated, whether it's upfront closing costs or VRA annual fees. These are all included in these debt service schedules. There's a public hearing on this tonight. That's required by the statutes or Public Finance Act. You have to have the public hearing, and then following that, if you have additional questions for us, we'll be able to address those. But you will ultimately get to a point where you might want to consider a resolution. The resolution was drafted consistent with the staff and our recommendation for VRA 25-year terms. If you decide that you're comfortable with that, there's a resolution for you to consider. If you decide that you would like to either push the decision till your September 16th meeting, you're able to do that. VRA doesn't need an answer till the 19th. Or if you decide you might want to go with a bank financing instead, we can bring that back to you at your next meeting as well. So you are able to take action this evening if you'd like with the VRA resolution, but you're not required to. And then when we get into that resolution, I don't know whether you want to discuss that now or at that time, there are some things that I'd like to point out, particularly about some of the parameters, right? If you approve the VRA resolution, and we know we can't lock that rate till the end of October. There's some parameters in that resolution that I want to talk through when that item comes up. And so it may be appropriate to hold the public hearing before that. Happy to answer questions now or afterwards.
That's afterwards.
Is that like the 6% thing?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, let's do it after the public hearing. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. At this time, we'll open up the public hearing. Does anyone like to approach the board? Any comments?
Nathan Brown from the Ware District. I don't care if they borrow the money. I mean, they're going to need additional money to work on the sewer and water system. But this thing of making these multiple barns doesn't seem to be the most efficient way to do it. I mean, it's going to run, you know, we probably have a $20, $30 million backlog of projects. We're going to borrow 10% of that. I mean, we're not going to make much of a dent. By the time you get this money you're probably gonna have to switch it over to another project because there's an emergency. You know, we haven't made almost any progress in fixing the sewer lines in Gloucester Courthouse. Pump Station 11, their line runs down here through the swamp. We don't have access to it. We don't have right of way to get to it. We haven't figured how to clear it to know how bad the line is. It could cost $2 million to fix it. I don't know, because we can't get people in there to actually look at it. It's gonna cost, you know, a lot more than this to fix these 2 pump stations. 11 down here and 13 down there, the main pump station in the courthouse. So I'm not, you know, we can do it this way, but I'm not sure this is the best way. We don't have enough engineering to go ahead with this. You know, we don't know what's going on. And, you know, we're gonna spend $800,000 on the water treatment plant. It probably needs 5 times that spent on it. You know, we're not borrowing any money to fix water lines that are constantly failing. So we're not making a lot of progress here. We're doing a lot of paperwork and not making a lot of progress. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there anyone else? Yes.
And I don't know how to address you all, but I was just...
Come up to the microphone.
I'm sorry? Can you come up to the microphone? Of course I can. Yes, my name is Tracy Herring, and I live, actually I'm homeless right now. I lived in Gloucester since 1997.
That works, and you have 3 minutes.
Okay, that's fine, and I will just only take about 30 seconds. Okay, and we're speaking about the water quality.
Yes.
Okay, and so my point is, I was walking through the courthouse today along Main Street because I am homeless, and I noticed that you had caned and bullfrogs and mosquitoes are bacterializing right there on the corner of 14 and 17. And how could that possibly be any feasible answer instead of making a sidewalk and treating with some sort of landscape? I'm walking here, and all of a sudden I'm noticing that there's just critters and stuff growing that were not there a month ago, and I'm homeless, okay? And I used to own my own landscaping business in this area, and by the luck of this county, I lost all of that opportunity, but I do still have a voice to speak, and I think it's very significant that you guys are not acknowledging the lack of your importance to the quality of the water in your sidewalks in this area, and the bicycles, because you are detrimentifying your significance to the area for hospitality and for so forth. And I just feel like I appreciate you allowing me to speak.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Paul Toop, and I live over in Pine Mill. I think that's Sign Pen area. We opened up tonight's meetings talking about taking the tolls out and expansion. I admit seeing this presentation from the cheap seats was very challenging, but it looked to me like the waterworks is basically a maintenance plan. Is there any contingency for the expansion you're concerned about because the tolls are gone? Is it a fixed project that shall not expand? If we're providing funding for maintenance on something that's going to expand, by principle, we're simply not going to have enough money there. Is there any forethought into what are we going to do if the county gets bigger? Not if the population gets bigger?
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else? Okay, board members? let's close this up, public hearing. Yes, sir, here we go.
Okay. So there is a resolution that you all could consider. I'm assuming that's in the packet as well.
It's 69,
69?
yes.
And again, you're not obligated to take action on this evening if you're not ready, but it, among other things, and the county attorney can maybe speak to any legal questions you might have, it establishes that, you know, the loan amount will not be more than $3 million. Keep in mind, we will only borrow what you need. We're not borrowing anything more than what you need or want. But it does establish a cap. And if you go to the top of page 3, it's under section 4, sale of bonds, terms and conditions. You'll see under paragraph B at the top of page 3, it establishes some parameters. Again, these bonds won't sell. VRA sells the bonds at the end of October, and at that point, everybody that's in this pool has an interest rate that's locked in and a debt service schedule that's final. In order to proceed and not have to have local approval right up to the very final, we establish parameters, and oftentimes those parameters provide cushion, right? And so they're really treated as not to exceeds, and at this point, what's in the resolution is a not to exceed interest rate of 6%. That's higher than where the current market is, right? We established that for VRA on a 25-year loan, the rate is around a 4.45. So it's significantly higher. It is a not to exceed, and it also establishes a not to exceed final maturity of June 30, 2056, which would basically be consistent. Yes, sir.
Cole, are these bonds tax-free bonds to the holder?
They're tax-exempt bonds. The not to exceed maturity would be June 30 of 2056, which would be consistent with a 30-year loan. So the resolution as written provides that VRA could move forward with fulfilling your request, provided that they come in at or below 6% and that the final maturity does not exceed June of 2056. You could amend that, if you'd like, to a lower rate or a shorter term, and that would provide VRA that guidance that they would have to meet in order to. Yes, sir.
So one small question. So their rate currently for a 25-year is 4.45. I obviously cannot buy that bond at that rate. I'd buy it at some lower rate, right? Because VRA wants to make a little money off the bond, right?
Say it again.
I will not be able to buy that bond for 4.45. It's going to be some other rate lower than that, so that they can make a profit off of the bond itself.
The way VRA sort of collects revenue or covers their costs is they add 12.5 basis points to the loan, and that's incorporated in the 445. So I don't think they would say it's profit, but it's a means to collect revenue to support their operations, and that is incorporated in that 445. So the rate to the investor is going to be closer to a 435, and VRA adds for their costs.
And what would these bonds be rated at?
As a VRA bond, it would be AAA off of the Commonwealth of Virginia rating, because they're a function of the state, or an entity of the state.
Mr. Cole, when would we determine the length of our borrowing? I mean, I don't see it in what's here, but I know that we have some more hurdles to get over. When would the county decide which length of term would we want?
You could direct that this evening. You could direct staff to make that decision at a later date, and VRA would give us, hey, you're in, your resolution was adopted theoretically. Let us know exactly how much you want within the parameter and the final maturity within the parameter, and they'll take that direction from staff, but you all can certainly direct staff specifically on those items or provide staff that latitude to make those decisions.
The recommendation, though, I'm sorry, the recommendation is the 25 years, but the up to the 30 is what's stated.
That's right, and all it means is we've got to stay within those parameters.
But I think the recommendation, based on exactly what
Correct.
he's saying, that the fact that we cannot borrow more money right now, or we would. This is like the maximum we can borrow with the payment that's going to be sustained by our system. Or otherwise, we would borrow more right now.
Right. Mr. Gibson.
Thank you for your presentation. I just had a question. Is there a particular policy reason why you're recommending 25 versus 20? Because I'm looking at the rates, and that's a 4.45 versus 4.15, and over the course of the loan, it would save approximately $400,000 if we went with a 20-year loan. Looks like Maria has an answer.
That's purely budgetary. We budgeted the fiscal year 26 budget off of, with Katie and I were just debating, I think it was between $150,000 and $160,000 annually for this loan, and it's $172 if you go, which we can work within the budget still at $172,000 per year, but that's the sole reason, is just we tried to get the payment as close to what we budgeted for in fiscal year 26 debt service, and also projected that debt service out to the future years, where then we start adding on additional, hopefully, to continue the 10-year plan.
Okay. Thank you. And just one other thought. I mean, I feel a little uncomfortable giving the ceiling of 6% in 30 years. There could be some aberration in the market that we're stuck with a higher rate. I would feel more comfortable with capping at 25 years and maybe 5.5% on the interest to provide a little bit more protection for the county. I don't know if others on the board have thoughts about that.
Mr. Cole, on your chart, let me see what page it is. In the page 77, which is your page 4.
Yes.
Enlighten me as to the AIC percents there.
Sure. So the line 7 there, right, the TIC is a rate calculation that does not take into account the issuance costs, and the AIC is a rate calculation that takes into account the issuance costs. When we talk about resolutions and rates not to exceed, we reference the TIC. That's just convention, but just two different ways to calculate rates on a loan, and every loan carries both.
Okay. Anyone else? So,
And to that point, you certainly have the ability, if you choose to consider the resolution, to consider adopting it with those changes.
Yes, Dr. Orth.
Given our discussions on utilities over the last year, knowing what the needs are, and even though they may change, I don't see myself changing the opinion I have of the VRA and the 25-year. I mean, I'd be willing to support it tonight, but I don't know how the other board members would feel on that. I mean, it's be either tonight or the 16th to make a decision on this. I mean, I would be willing to vote tonight, but I don't know how others would feel.
I am of the mindset, that's why I wanted to ask about the AIC when Mr. Gibson wanted to change the percentage. For me, the VRA gives us the best option. Staff has told us for future borrowing and what they've worked out in the budget, the number that works the best is the 25-year plan. I would like to get this started so we can start doing something to get this thing back on track, and then we can reevaluate and look at things again next year, or when we get to do the next round of borrowing for this to make sure we can make it all work.
Can the 6% cap be reduced to 5.5%?
Yes, sir.
To 5? Five.
So can I make the motion to adopt the resolution?
Yeah, but wait a minute.
Hold on.
Changes.
Well, he's gonna make the changes.
Change on what? I'm sorry.
Make it so that we cap it, change that 6% that he mentioned on the page to 5.
Okay,
And for the 20,
okay.
yes, to
So adopt the
2051.
resolution as
Okay.
amended, as discussed at present.
So I'll second that motion.
Moved and second. Ms. Steele? Hold on, what? More discussion? Some more? Any more?
So
No
is,
more?
so Mr. Cole, with the AIC, is the rate come out to actually 5.51%?
They're both accurate rates, but they're calculated differently.
Because of?
One
the
takes
cost.
into account the cost of issuing the debt, the other doesn't. So, I mean, one's not right or wrong, they're just two different ways to assign a rate to a loan. And the not to exceed rate in the resolution, it correlates to the rate on line 7. That's what VRA would look to, the rate on line 7 when looking at the resolution and saying, are we okay?
Because looking at it, I agree with Mr. Gibson. If we looked at 20%, I'd like to know how close, if we looked at 20 years, we're looking at $500,000 difference in what we would be paying in interest back on the loan. And I think that's something we need to consider because we're looking at not quite, about $20,000 a year in additional payments.
Right, going from 25 to 20 would increase the annual payment by about 20,000, 18 to 20,000 per year. It would obviously shorten the loan by 5 years and save approximately, $500,000. And you know, going back to the prior question that Maria answered, the 25 year is more in line with what was budgeted in 26, and what was budgeted in 26 was derived from utility modeling that we had been doing that took into account this borrowing, but it also took into account future larger borrowings that we expect to come. And I mean, I'd venture to say you could forget about the budget, you know, you could probably pay this back in 15 years if you wanted to, right? But when you when you do a 15-year loan and you start stacking on these other loans, looking backwards, you might say, you know, I wish we had structured that to 20 or 25 years. And so the modeling that we've done assume all of this debt is done over 25 years, and it's the aggregate of all of them that we believe fits for the way this utility system is expected to grow and doesn't put undue burden on rates.
Do we have, and I'm sure Ms. Lake does have, and Ms. Callaway and yourself, an idea of what future borrowing is going to be? When is it planned? That,
yes.
Could you enlighten us?
Yeah.
So this is based on the 5-year and 10-year plan that I've shown you several times over the last several months. So what I am currently looking at from FY26 to FY30 is just under $30 million total. So FY27 would be 4.8, FY28 5.2, and then it goes to 8.5 million for the remaining 2 years. That assumes nothing changes in the capital plan.
But that's proposed borrowing.
That is proposed borrowing, yes.
Still won't fix our problem.
That's only 5 years.
Are we going to undercut our ability to take on that debt to complete these projects if we go 20 versus 25?
No, it makes me nervous, I'll be honest, to add any more to it. I also was like you and said, oh, well, it's not a whole lot more. Let's look at these lower terms. But given how we don't have a good enough account of what our revenue is looking like quite yet, we haven't fully realized AMI revenue efficiencies. We've just changed the rate structure. We still are not quite sure about development fees yet. So it's possible, but also given the amount of expenditures that we incur that are unanticipated for repairs on any given week, I hesitate.
Mr. Gibson.
One more question for Mr. Cole. I want this resolution to pass, and I want this borrowing to move forward to support utilities, but are we risking the inability to obtain these bonds if we are aggressive with these caps of 5% and 25 years? Do you think that would scuttle our ability to obtain this funding?
You know, at the 25-year term, where we're estimating the current market at 445, between now and end of October, you've got room for rates to rise 55 basis points, 0.5%. People seem to think rates are headed lower. When and how quickly is the unknown. But I would also say that there are things that nobody can predict that could happen between now and October 28th that could move rates even lower or even higher. So I don't think you are precluding, but the lower you move that not to exceed rate, you just have a smaller room for rates to move. And you know, if rates do get to a point where we get up against or eclipse the not to exceed rate, you know, we just go back to the drawing board and we come back with another financing option.
Okay. You okay?
I think
sorry, one more thing. 55 basis points in, make sure all of it, in 60 days is a pretty significant move, and it would be viewed something or multiple things have occurred that would cause that, but it's not unprecedented, right? Rates have moved that amount in that period of time before, so it's not unprecedented, but it would be an event between now and October that nobody has seen or been willing to predict could happen.
It would all depend if the Fed chair gets fired, right?
Yeah, and how does the market react to that? You know, and how does the market, you know, bond market in particular?
Yeah, I think Ms. Lake brought up some very important points about the unknowns in the budgetary process, and I think that needs to be taken into consideration in our vote for the current resolution, because, as she said, we don't know the savings that would come from AMI. We don't know anything about development fees. All those things will be clearer, hopefully, next year when we will be looking at more borrowing. So I think the wise choice is to be prudent in what we have as a current resolution, knowing next year we're going to be hearing much more about proposed borrowing and having additional information on what she just described for the budget.
And I'll just remind you, you will have the ability to, if the rates support it, refinance debt after 10 years. And, you know, part of the strategy may also be that as these additional projects come in line, some of them are expected to be larger dollar amounts. Obviously, those borrowings will move the needle a whole lot more on your annual payment than this. And maybe those towards the end of the CIP give you the opportunity to shorten debt if financials are trending in that direction.
But we have a motion on the table.
So, here we,
Yeah, and a second.
And a second.
And it would permit a 25-year loan at the rate proposed.
Right.
So we're not undercutting that ability.
right.
One question, to justify your trip down from Richmond, would it be advantageous for us in the event, you said it's unprecedented, that it would go up over 5? Should we make it 5 1/4?
If it was up to me, I would say yes. I think that gives you flexibility to get this done. And
but if it comes in at 5 1/4, do we have to say yes if we agree to it now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Moved and second.
The motion is for 5%
Right.
and 25 years.
Correct. Okay, Steve.
Okay? Dr. Orth? Yes. Mr. Hutson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Chriscoe?
Yes.
Mr. Bazzani? Mr. Nicosia?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, moving on to our regular agenda. Consideration of financing options for school HVAC projects. Ms. Callaway and Mr. Coles again.
Yes, thank you. So I wanted to provide, this is for the, as Mr. Smith mentioned, consideration of financing options for the school HVAC, which I mentioned at the last meeting, but we did not go into detail. This was also adopted, these projects, as a part of the fiscal year 26 CIP, $4.9 million, which was a quote that we had during the CIP, so it was not a super old quote. That was the most recent quote at the time we prepared that budget. So as we've been working with Mr. Cole and his team to work through the financing options, I've also been working very closely with Mr. Hartley as well as Mr. Miller on the actual projects. So I wanted to give you a quick update on the pricing there before Mr. Cole goes through those financing options. So as with everything, prices have gone up since we prepared that budget. There have also apparently been some changes in how HVAC projects are priced. It's not based solely on tonnage anymore, as it was apparently just a year ago. So some changes there, and that budget has come in about $2 million, or that pricing about $2 million more than what was expected. So what we've worked with Mr. Miller and Mr. Hartley on is coming up with a plan that will prioritize the schools that are the most behind and that need to get done the quickest, will get done within the $4.9 million budget. If the board were to want to move forward with trying to finance the entire amount instead this evening, we have options for that as well. Mr. Cole's team has already run those numbers. There is capacity in this fund, and that brings me to my next point, that this debt was to be financed and paid with school sales tax funding. We have done the school HVAC projects with school sales tax funding before, and that was the budgeted revenue source. So that, I'm going to provide a better update in a couple of weeks when I'm here for the year-end update on the 16th, I believe it is. But that fund is doing well, and that fund can support the additional debt, or it perhaps is going to be we keep everything where it is at the 4.9, and we come back for the one school to complete that next year. And Mr. Miller at the schools has expressed that that would be absolutely fine. So some options, unfortunately, to muddy the waters, but I wanted you to be aware of those changes. And lastly, before Mr. Cole starts reviewing these financing options with you, if you do choose to go with the option that staff reviewed and recommends, there were two errors that Mr. Wilmot found in our resolution, and those errors have been corrected, and there is a new resolution at your seats. So if you do choose to adopt that resolution tonight, the errors were where in the first paragraph it mentions AMI instead of school HVAC. And as you will hear, this is the same type of equipment lease that we did for the automated metering infrastructure. And the second modification is where the funding source on the second page, first paragraph, mentions utilities fund, and that is now school sales tax fund. So those are the two modifications if you choose to adopt that resolution. I'll pass it over to Mr. Cole.
Okay, there is no public hearing required for this, so that's why that's not part of this one. Like the last item, you all do have a resolution you could consider this evening if you're comfortable, but we certainly don't have to have that this evening. We can come back at the next meeting if you need more time. All of the numbers that we've run are using the $6 million amount, which is going to net you all about 5.8 million plus or minus plus. It'll be a little more than that once we finalize the costs, issuance costs. 5.8 million for HVAC equipment. If you wanted to go with a larger amount that Maria just mentioned, you certainly can. The bank is willing to do that. The resolution would need to be changed from 6 million to 7 million. But the numbers we've run assume a $6 million borrowing. We did an RFP. The state programs are not an option for this project. We did a bank RFP, received proposals from 5 banks. Some overlap with utility, but some other names. The banks could consider 2 different ways to secure this loan. They could secure it with a building, like a school facility. That would require the EDA to be involved in the financing because there's real property being, real estate being pledged as collateral, a leasehold interest. Or they could propose an equipment lease financing. Bank of America Public Capital Corp., who is the lender that we're recommending, proposed as an equipment lease. So not real property, no EDA involvement. The loan would be secured through a filing on the HVAC equipment. As Maria said, very similar to what you did with the AMI projects and with the same lender, Bank of America Public Capital Corp. So it's a little bit of a streamlined process in terms of collateralization and not needing to use the EDA. Because the HVAC equipment will be owned by the schools, the school board would need to approve this, and that has been penciled in for the 9th. You would hope if you all approve this, that would be a formality. You can see the rates on this chart over on the right. We asked for 15 and 20 year. The recommendations for 15 year, we talked a fair amount about that with staff and just felt like for the type of equipment we're purchasing here, useful life, 15 was more appropriate. So the Bank of America rate, that is locked, it's not floating. If you decide to move forward this evening, that would be locked in at a 4.035%. Again, it would be secured by the equipment, not by any real estate, and you would be able to prepay it in whole, but not in part, with a 2% penalty in the future. So there would be a cost to prepay or refund in the future, but that would be at your discretion of whether to pursue that. On the 15-year, the next best rate was from Webster Bank. They're at a 4.28. They will require real estate, so call it a school facility, title insurance, and that would necessitate the need for the EDA. So a number of reasons why we landed on the Bank of America recommendation. And I won't go through those others. I think those first 2 are the most important to cover. Sort of the terms and conditions of the Bank of America proposal here on the left. You know, most of this I have covered. Just looking here. They would, what we've told them is that we would be able to close this loan by the middle of October, and even if you were to delay your approval of this till next meeting, we can still meet that date because it's just you and the school board that are needed. And then the debt service schedule is on the right-hand side. Again, assuming the loan amount at $6 million, and call it $547,000 a year, $8.2 million in total from beginning to end, and this does fit within the sales tax model and then some. There's even additional sales tax revenue projected after this is layered in on top of the other debt that was supported by sales tax.
So Mr. Cole, you are forecasting that the sales revenues will be 5.928 million going forward from 25 through whatever, 2040. What's the basis for this number that being consistent like this down into the future? Why is it the same? Is there some kind of economic forecast that you threw in here, or is it just?
That's the debt service, not the revenue.
Good.
The revenues coming in for sales tax is the same.
Based on history.
Based on history, so the history was 5.5, 6, and then in 24, 6.4. And so why did you pick, or who picked 5.928 to be the consistent number through 2040?
That was something agreed upon between myself and Davenport. When we looked at the model, we didn't want to go as high as what the actual was in 2024. So I believe the 5.9 was actually the budgeted amount for 2024. And then we decided to keep that consistent number all the way through instead of growing it, which would be a little more aggressive in the grand scheme of the projection. So we kept it at a level that we exceeded 2 years in a row, expecting that that will continue.
And you're comfortable with that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Bazzani, I thought you were talking about the debt, the 547, my fault.
Ms. Callaway, what project is not going to be done based on this? Or what projects?
So, where did I have?
This is the
So we-
priority project, right? The school, whatever school needs it gets it first.
Bodies Hot is number 1 for HVAC, and then Achilles is going to be number 2. Petsworth is controls only, and Mr. Wilmot received a memo late today to review whether that is sales tax funding eligible. I'm not sure if that is or not, and it's a small number in this, but that would be number 3. And then number 4 is Abingdon, which could be partially done within the 4.9 million. But Abingdon was all in over $3 million. So it sounds like it's multiple units, and Mr. Miller is still working with the contractor to determine various options, and it sounds like they could do a partial within this budget.
Where did the estimates come in from for this project?
These particular estimates are Honeywell.
Honeywell. We got an RFP and they gave us a response.
I believe they're on contract.
They're under
state
contract. Okay, thank you.
So if we were to complete Abington while we're doing this, what would the total be?
Over 3.1 million.
The total borrowing, if we were to.
Oh, I'm sorry, just under 6.8 million in total.
So roughly another 800,000. Well, no, a million, because we've got 200.
2 million, almost 2 million, 1.8 million, because right now we're doing 4.9. Of project costs, and see, that's where it's getting a little confusing. I think Mr. Cole's referencing,
So right now, we're doing a 6 million.
At 5.8.
To give you 5.8.
that, isn't this the additional? That was run, the original was 4.9.
I think we're over the original, so we're sort of in between is the way I was reading it. If we go up to the 7 million to cover the cost of issuance, that should leave us enough to be able to do the entire project, all the projects, and potentially not pay higher price for pushing it back.
So another million, because it's 5.8 right here of project costs. Total use is 6 million, because we backed into that number, the project fund.
Right, I think the 4.9 that you're referencing.
Is included in the 5.8.
Yeah, I guess. Trying to understand that.
If the project costs come in less than what we borrowed, then who gets the difference? The
I'm sorry,
schools?
say that again?
If the project costs come in lower than what we borrowed, who gets the difference?
We wouldn't borrow, if we borrow more than, well, we shouldn't be borrowing a lot more than what the project cost is anyways. We'll go in with with what they've provided us as final quotes with the borrowing. We're at that place. But the difference would come back to the board. The resolution is written in such a way that it specifically states school HVAC projects. Correct. Mr. Wilmot can correct me if I'm incorrect, if I'm wrong there.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Mr. Gibson had a question about the school tax. Well, most of these payments would be eligible for funding from the school sales tax because it's new construction or major renovation. And the primary factor in whether it's major or not is really the amount of the cost relative to the cost of the facility you're improving. So Maria has indicated she has a memo to me on one of the schools which has minor costs. I'm not so sure that's going to fly because it's not really a major renovation. $50,000 is a figure that's floated out there, generally speaking, with whether something's major or not. So some of this may have to be funded from the general fund, but the resolution you have in front of you, the revised one, says the payments on the funding are from the general fund or the school sales tax, so you're okay. So I just want to make it clear that it may turn out that one or more of these projects is not fundable through the sales tax, but most of them will be.
What year does the sales tax end? That's what I was thinking.
2040.
Yes.
Yeah, 2046. 2040. 2040.
40.
2040.
So if we were to leave this as it is, we would have the last payment of $547 due out of general fund.
No, the way that the sales tax works is we've built in that the debt service, it builds a reserve. So none of the debt service that we have issued so far will have to be paid out of general fund. And, you know, obviously there's always the caveat that there could be a major economic crisis and sales tax tanks. But if sales tax remains at this consistent level, we will still have around $8 million remaining even after all of this debt service is included, from which we can continue to pay any remaining.
Did you, I take it based on the presentation, you haven't done it. How hard would it be to get the extra million included to finish the schools as they are, as they should be done?
My understanding is not hard. We did quite a bit of that legwork. I learned that on Thursday night. So over Friday and today, we've been going back and forth. Davenport has run those numbers. Like, as I mentioned, it's still comfortable. We would have to modify the resolution to do a not to exceed $7 million instead of $6 million, so that you have that that additional in your resolution.
Us as a group could do that tonight.
Let's do that.
Yep.
But that assumes that all the projects have to come online immediately, right? They're not staggered. I mean, these facilities are not, well, they're not broken, they're still functional, but Mr. saying that all these projects have to come online now, so if we approve this and boom, we go out and contract and get all these projects done, whether those systems need it or not today, right?
They're on this list because they need it.
Because they need it.
I mean, that's why we're discussing this. And I'm with Mr. Hutson here. I would hate to do this tonight and be $1 million short when we have the option as this board to change the not to exceed to 7 million and get these ones done and out of our way, and then we can get the updated 15-year chart to us.
Or to the schools to show them what it's going to be.
Exactly right. And then we'd be in good shape.
Well, I'm kind of old school. If it isn't broke, don't fix it.
Well, it's broke.
It's broke.
It's broken.
They're actually broken.
And the one thing that we have learned with these building projects, the one tried and true, never changes, is delay equals higher prices. And the longer we kick this can down the road, the longer we delay, we're going to be paying more money. This is exactly fits squarely within the purpose of the sales tax for major renovations, with the exception of the two very small projects. So this is exactly what this was designed for. And the reality is, I mean, kids can't learn and teachers can't teach if it is very, very cold or burning up hot. We'd have to shut down the schools. It would be a disaster if one of these major systems breaks down. So I think we need to address this, and I would support the cap at the 7 million.
Ms. Callaway, one.
And we went this side. Okay, so then we have the remaining sales tax. the 5.8, and then the next one is the 6.8, so we'd have 7.4 remaining. Okay.
Ms. Callaway, one other question.
Yes.
Maybe you don't know this. If we were, you said Botetourt was first.
Say that again?
You said Botetourt was at the top of the list.
Yes.
How would this affect the plan to remodel Botetourt?
That I can't answer, but I know that this is necessary regardless. Do you?
I think it's a totally different section.
Okay. Well, I'm going to make the motion that we do it 7 million at 15 years, not to exceed 7 million.
Second.
That's the resolution, right, guys? Okay. Moved and second. Any other questions? Discussion?
Mr. Hutson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Chriscoe?
Yes.
Mr. Bazzani? Yes. Mr. Nicosia?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Dr. Orth? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cole, for coming down with me.
Okay, next on our agenda, discussion about potential options for allowing alcohol on county property. Mr. Matt Barber, Director of Parks and Rec.
All right, thanks for having me. I hope everyone's doing well tonight. The reason I'm up here this evening is a follow-up from, if you remember a couple months ago, just before Daffodil Festival, a local business came up and was discussing the potential about having alcohol on county property. I think the board at the time and staff both agreed that it should be part of a broader topic about alcohol overall on county property, not just in relation to the Daffodil Festival. So to give you some background, we have several different policies and ordinances that relate to the topic of alcohol. And before any recommendations are made about how to change anything, we just kind of want to gauge the temperature of the board on which direction we go. There's not going to be any official decision here tonight. We just kind of want a general consensus on what direction to how to proceed. The main areas the county has that relate to alcohol are a park ordinance that states no alcohol allowed on park property, and an administrative policy that states no alcohol allowed on county property, which is through our facilities use policy. The facilities use policy applies to both county users and anybody who comes in to utilize county facilities that are outside groups. This discussion is going to kind of go over potential options, opportunities, and outcomes if any decision or adjustments are made. And the reason I'm up here with this recommendation instead of some other departments is because 90% of these situations occur either in a park, regard a recreation program or a tourism program. Whether it be a special event such as the annual Daffodil Festival, a banquet, a ceremony in the museum or the court circle, a symphony concert at Woodville Park, or a wedding at Beaver Dam Park's Whitcomb Lodge, there are numerous opportunities to allow alcohol on county property in a responsible way. A couple things I want to be clear about. Any alcohol on county property would need an ABC permit from the state agency in order to proceed. There are various types of licenses that ABC offers depending on what the specific occasion is. Any changes we make aren't going to create a free-for-all where people can just come onto county property and drink and bring their alcohol or whatever. It is still very controlled in how it's done. The most common type of ABC permit you see and you probably think of is what's called a banquet special event license. The county itself is not eligible to require this. It has to be a 501c3 who would hold the license. For a special event, whatever 501c3 could partner with the county in order to manage an ABC boundary. An ABC boundary is defined as a designated area that includes secure fencing, monitors ingress-egress points, ID checks, ticket sales, opening and pouring of beverages, all of which are required to be done by the nonprofit.
Real quick, so what kind of licensing does Yorktown have when they have their summer concert series where they just have a rope around and you can drink inside that rope area?
That's this specific type.
That's what this is.
As long as you have a boundary that says this is like your designated area, it's a banquet special event license. Yeah. And then again, there's also a regular banquet license, and that's kind of known as a one-day license. And that's issued in cases where there's no alcohol sold, like a wedding or a banquet or something like that, where you're just kind of giving it out. Again, these banquet licenses issued by ABC can either be what they call regular, which is like beer and wine based, or they have mixed beverage based, which is anytime you involve liquor in the process. When those obviously include additional layer requirements and fees associated with that. Any ordinance or policy change we decide to go with or consider can be written in a way to only include like a certain park, a certain facility, any kind of number of ways we want to write it in order to kind of clearly outline our future use for that property. Again, we could also restrict policies to county-sanctioned events only, or we could write them in a way that opens up the possibilities for outside rentals to come utilize the facility. And again, with that said, there's pros and cons to whichever direction we go. Some pros, there could be enhanced direct revenue opportunities, opportunities for nonprofit fundraisers that weren't already there before, and it also could allow local businesses to participate and partner in more of our events. On the downside, any alcohol permitting will require an additional layer of management from county staff to ensure the ABC requirements are met, even if it's not specifically our event. And in many cases, there will need to be law enforcement involved and staffing and all that goes in with that. There could also be the perception that we're kind of stepping on other groups' toes. An example of this would be Daffodil Fest, where we have the main street, has their beer garden just outside the festival grounds if we decide to do something with our Daffodil Festival. So that's always something for consideration. That's kind of all my high-level thoughts on this. And this is kind of meant to be an open discussion from everybody and just kind of see where we want to go. Go ahead.
Mr. Hutson.
Mr. Barber, have you ever watched Shark Tank?
Yes, I have.
Where's our samples to try to get us to buy?
I know.
It's currently not allowed.
Well, JJ carries that bottle all the time. I don't know what's in that. Really, what I was getting ready to say was last spring, fall, don't remember, went to the Suffolk, Smithfield Wine and Beer Festival. And I actually talked to the lady that was in charge of it. It was actually a nonprofit group that ran the parks. The first year it was very small outing. After that it grew. I think to attract, we've had a local winery that's been interested. I think it would allow us the opportunity to expand a little bit, but I think it needs to be controlled on where, when, and how. I think we need to explore it more. But first and third Tuesdays in this building might be okay. But yeah, you got that right. We don't want cushions. But all that being said, I think it's something that we need to explore further. And I think you need to contact Smithfield and some other localities. I'm sure you already have. But to see any of the cons about what they've done and see, how we can proceed and do it right. I'd like to see that.
Okay, that's fine. Again, I'll just, my background a little bit before I came to Gloucester 7 years ago, I did event permitting in Virginia Beach and in Newport News, and we did lots of alcohol events. So I kind of understand the dynamics there with that. And again, there's a lot of different ways you can go with that, with nonprofit groups and all that. I think if we kind of want to go the direction of county events or you want to go the outside group options or anything like that, I just kind of want to get some direction on how much information I'm presenting, because you can go on and on about a bunch of different ways things can be done. So I just kind of want to narrow it down to, if that makes sense.
I have one question, if I could. Would we be responsible for any type of insurance liabilities?
So, yes, obviously insurance is a part of the whole process that goes on. A lot of times it's through the ABC permit is usually how that's handled. And again, we would have to construct some sort of application or agreement with the nonprofit if we're partnering. But the majority of the time, the nonprofit's who carries the liability in those situations. But again, because they're the ones that's named officially on the ABC permit.
On the ABC license, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't personally want to just see everybody at Woodville Park break open a bottle after an event, soccer game, football game, whatever else. But if we can have some events established where there's parameters set up, I think that's where you need to proceed.
Yep, and that's fine. And I think, again, in the past when I was doing this, I was thinking where if we decide to go this route for any recommendations, like name very specific parks or very specific controlled areas that we want to do this to, not just say it's open free-for-all for every park. Very specific in our ordinance or policy recommendations that we bring back up to you before we approve anything. And again, we would run all that through Mr. Wilmot's office and all that.
We've been going to Yorktown Summer Concert Series for the last 20 years. We've never seen any incident where someone was taken out because they were drunk. But you are allowed to bring your own cooler, hard alcohol if you want it, and enjoy a concert without, being, obnoxious.
I'm not sure we were thinking of that kind of an event too, and I know what you're talking about, and it's happened here with our symphony on private property. I think this would be for an ordinance of allowing the nonprofit company would be, the nonprofit organization would be selling the alcohol. It would not be BYOB. I'm not sure you would want to go that far.
Yeah. And so again, when just the incident or the situation that came up last year at Daffodil Festival with the winery that wanted to participate in the event, technically that winery has a permit to sell off-site closed bottles. So the reason why they were not allowed in it is because currently it's written, our administrative policy doesn't allow alcohol on county property, even though he wanted to come sell closed bottles and all that to the participants that are in the event. So we wouldn't necessarily need a barricade or ABC boundary for that. But in order to allow him to participate, there would have to be a change in the ordinance to go that direction too. So again, there's so many different options on how we rewrite this. I don't know if we want to, you mentioned maybe at the retreat bringing this up very detailed with information. I don't know, and go into a lot more detail of the different types and all that. But I just kind of wanted to get a high level look on this to see what direction we were, or what the board's temperature was on this, if we wanted to drop it or move forward. So.
Okay.
I myself would like to see more info, just because you visit other localities and they're doing so much different things and so many different options. I would like to have more information and figure out, and just give me time to think about what possible locations it would make sense to do it in, and maybe some time restrictions, because if there's an event at Woodville Park, that's great, but don't want it happening when there's kids events and sports events going on.
Exactly.
So there's some things that we have to iron out, but I would like to see some more information.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Could we perhaps focus on the nonprofits and the county-sponsored events? Those are two. And maybe include, depending on what you think, private individuals. So what we're excluding is for-profits, is what we're excluding.
Right.
So it's the weddings and the retirement parties that may be coming soon. Retirement parties. So it'd be nice if you institute this before then. And the nonprofits, but exclude the for-profits. And what you would do, perhaps think about anyway, is modify your facilities use policy, which currently prohibits alcohol use totally. So you could limit it to certain venues or certain places. And then if you were going to include any public parks, then you would have to modify your ordinance, as Matt indicated. So perhaps after Matt, doubles back with some other jurisdictions with which he's already fully aware, how they do things, which I never care about. And then we could perhaps come before you with the current facilities use policy and suggest potential modifications, which might include some but not all of our facilities for potential alcohol consumption use, and the nonprofits and the county-sponsored events to which it would be limited, and the weddings and the retirement parties. We could do that. That won't be hard.
There's a question. Where would the gentleman fall that wanted to have the wine, the bottle sale?
That was exactly what I was going to ask, because if a nonprofit sponsors the event that brings in the commercial entity,
that'd be fine.
He gets to participate through that way.
Right, so Mr. Zoll or Zoll,
Yes.
he'd be okay.
Okay.
And again, he has his own ABC permit that
Okay.
covers off-site. It's just because our policy doesn't allow alcohol on county property, he couldn't bring it here. But
So he can
we
bring
could
it, sell
adjust
it.
that if this is policy adjusted.
So we change it. He can
Yeah.
bring it, sell it, but they can't drink it where he is.
Correct. That's part of why I was a little bit leery with that, because if we need to go kind of getting in depth on this, if we need signage or all that, because communication to the public that, okay, you bought this unopened bottle of wine. That doesn't mean you can just now open it and go sit there and watch the band if we don't decide to go any further with that recommendation. So we need to be clearly kind of lay out these options and, yeah.
All right, so they won't be doing a tasting, they'll just buy without tasting it?
So I think the way ABC limit, it has like a minimal, like whatever this amount is, that you can taste that, yeah, that falls under the limit, but then anything over that, you have to sell it uncorked or whatever based off of his policy.
You know, I have communion, we do, I was just wondering
Yeah.
what would work for communion, if I want to taste it.
You would like me to add all this in the recommendations? That's fine.
No, communion.
Okay. All right. Okay, all right. And I'll kind of proceed and get back to you at some point with more specific options, kind of a ABC type thing for each option.
Okay, okay, thank you, sir.
Thanks.
All right, next, we have Gloucester County membership in Virginia Waters and Wastewater Agency Response Network. Ms. Katie Legg, back again.
Figures. Leave Parks and Rec and I don't get to do the good stuff. I have no presentation for you tonight, so we are going to be as brief as possible. What you have before you is a resolution authorizing the county administrator to execute an agreement. Virginia Warren is basically a supplemental agency to locality mutual aid agreements. So it's specific to water and wastewater facilities. There is no charge. It allows utilities to request and or provide assistance to each other during major events, whether it's natural, man-made. Members can currently utilize a database to quickly locate equipment, supplies, personnel, whatever the need may be. We identify authorized contacts, so that would be myself, it would be Ms. Steele, and potentially the water treatment plant manager when we're having chemical supply issues. And then those authorized contacts would be the ones to execute each event agreement. It's not meant to be specific to declared emergencies. It could be, but it could also be if I have a pump failure at the plant, supply chain issues. In fact, we're very thankful to our neighbors in Newport News when we had some supply chain issues with chemicals, and we called over there and they said bring a 5-gallon bucket, and they helped us out. So this would then open us up statewide. HRSD is also a member, which is very nice from the sewer side. So you have a resolution in front of you on page 108.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
But I do have a question, Ms. Legg, real quick. In reference to the traffic truck thing that we bought, with the thing that...
The crash truck.
Crash truck,
Yes.
there you go. If a contractor is doing work in the county and we're not using it, would it not save the county money on the contract if we were to supply our truck versus getting one in, rented in?
We could, but then what happens when we need it?
I'm just...
It's a possibility. A lot of times when we're contracting out those bigger repairs, we get the full price. They're going to manage the traffic plan in totality.
Okay. All right, Ms. Steele.
Okay, Ms. Steele.
Okay, Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Chriscoe?
Yes.
Mr. Bazzani?
Yes.
Mr. Nicosia?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Dr. Orth? And Mr. Hutson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, Ms. Legg, you're still up.
And I still don't have a presentation.
Okay, you're doing good.
So you may recall, HRSD received a grant from the Department of Environmental Quality, and it's aimed at reducing non-point source pollution in the Chesapeake Bay. And so they drafted, or they applied as a program that was somewhat unique and different than any other, and actually was the highest scoring project. And this was to incentivize customers who are on septic tanks to hook up to county sewer. The goal of the program will be the homeowner will apply and or let us know that this is something that they want to do. Typically, A homeowner then would have to pay their connection fees. We would notify HRSD. They pay those at the same time. They go through the construction, we inspect it, and then they become a customer. With this program, what HRSD is proposing is that a customer contacts our department and says, I want to abandon my septic tank and hook up to county sewer. HRSD will waive their connection fees, which is $2,500. They are requesting that localities do the same. And so my recommendation would be that that is something that this board consider. However, as I was drafting the resolution and went through Ted's office, it became very clear that our current ordinance does not allow the board to waive fees. It allows you to set them, but not waive them. So I can't give you a resolution to waive those fees should you so choose to be a part of this program. Instead, what I would like is direction on whether or not you would like to amend the code to allow the board to waive fees. And
Yes, most definitely.
so then I will come back
Yes.
at your work session
Yes.
with proposed language so that you can authorize a public hearing, should you so choose, for the
Okay.
October meeting.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, next. Resolution to accept donation from the Gloucester Museum Foundation for second floor exhibit and to appropriate funds. Ms. Calloway,
I don't have a presentation either.
are you doing good with that? Come on, bring them on.
Thank you. So this resolution is on page 133 of your board packet, and this is to appropriate and accept a $10,000 donation from the Gloucester Museum Foundation. This funding, $5,000 has been received. Our policy is once it hits that $10,000 threshold, and they are planning to provide another $5,000 in January of 2026. So this will go towards the second floor of the museum, and I believe Mr. Barber is here if you have any questions on that. Otherwise, there's a resolution on page 133.
Second.
Okay. Ms. Steele, it is a resolution?
Mr. Chriscoe?
Yes.
Mr. Bazzani? Mr. Nicosia?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Dr. Orth? Mr. Hutson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Isn't it funny how this board, when they start talking alcohol, how much easier things get?
Imagine if we had.
We'd have been done an hour ago.
Yeah. Okay, next, Mr. Wilmot.
I too do not have a presentation. But then again, I never have a presentation. I am the presentation.
We're gonna start with Matt next week.
What you have in front of you is better than what was behind you. On page 134 of your agenda packet are the materials which deal with this subject. As you may recall, the county has previously opted in to previous settlements by the Commonwealth of Virginia with opioid manufacturers and distributors on multiple occasions, understanding that you have to opt in order to participate and in order to receive the funds from these nationwide settlements. Usage of these funds is limited to certain tasks and undertakings, educating, helping people who are addicted to opioids, very narrow set of circumstances. Mr. Wright, who's now leaving, sadly, has been the major person, along with Ms. Calloway, in administering the funds that we've been receiving and making sure that they're utilized in the appropriate manner. So I'm sure Ms. Calloway will now have to do it all because Mr. Wright's leaving. So you have in front of you a resolution on page 135. The nationwide, the country is expected to receive about $720 million from multiple opioid manufacturers, and I may butcher some of their names, but it's Alvogen, Amneal, Apotex, Hikma, Invidior, Mylan, Sun, and Zydus, all of those. So cumulatively about $720 million on a nationwide basis. If you opt in, Gloucester will get a small portion of that. You've opted in on other occasions with other manufacturers and distributors. So you have in front of you a resolution on page 135 and 136, which allows you to opt in and receive a portion of those funds.
So moved.
Second.
Hold on a second. Ms. Steele?
Mr. Bazzani? Mr. Nicosia?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Dr. Orth? Mr. Hutson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Chriscoe?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Board appointments. Let's see, we don't have any board appointments. Board of Equalization, we currently, no one's interested in any applicants. And volunteer bank we have, so no one has anyone tonight for Board of Equalization? Any? No one for the Historical Committee? None? Okay. So we had to go back to the mic. Thank you. All right, moving on. Okay. County attorney items,
Nothing,
are you
just
done?
glad to be here.
Done? Okay. Board and commission reports? Supervisor discussion? No closed meeting?
So Second.
All in favor? We adjourn.